Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Xiaoling, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at the PC version of Hitman GO Definitive Edition. I do apologize for the late video. I only got my review code an hour after the game released last night, so I had to spend the evening playing the game so I could formulate my opinion of it for you guys. So what exactly is Hitman GO Definitive Edition? Well, Hitman GO was originally released on mobile devices in 2014. It's a turn-based puzzle game based on the Hitman franchise. Now, there was additional content released for the game as well, and the mobile version contained transactions. Now wait, before you get upset, the Definitive Edition is basically the game and all of its extra content packaged into one box without the microtransactions and with some graphical improvements. So before we get into the game itself, let's take a look at the options. There aren't very many to speak of. Resolution settings, full screen on and off, VSync, sound and music on and off, and reset game. Yep, that's it. The game is very minimalistic with regards to sound, music, so not having sliders for the audio is not a deal breaker, but it would have been nice to have at least some audio control. Graphics wise, other than having higher resolution, it's pretty much the mobile version ported to PC. They say there are some improvements to the lighting system, but I've not played the mobile versions, so outside of having actually watched footage of the mobile versions, I can't really make a direct comparison, although I think the game looks fine. But I'll speak a little bit more about that later in the video. So for the most part, I don't think the lack of settings impacts the game. So let's get into the game and I'll talk about my biggest issues with this title. So this is the very first level of the game. You may notice something. There's no information on how to do anything at all. The game doesn't even attempt to explain to you how you should move or interact with the world, or how the mechanics work. Now, this would have been fine if the keyboard and mouse controls were even in the slightest way intuitive. The first thing I tried to do when starting the game was click on the dot with my mouse to move my character. Nothing happened. Okay. WASD obviously. Nothing happened. Maybe the arrow keys. Nothing happened. Okay, maybe numpad. Nope. Eventually, I figured out you have to click on your character and swipe. Yes, I said swipe the mouse in the direction you want him to move. So click and swipe. Yeah, that's not so intuitive for a PC user. Clicking and holding either the left or right mouse button, then moving the mouse rotates the screen around. The mouse wheel will switch between the two camera positions of the map. Escape takes you to the pause screen, and that's it. Not a single key on the keyboard does anything else. Nothing. Escape will take you to the menu and you have your mouse controls. Everything though is mapped to the controller and its buttons are labeled as you can see on the screen. The left analog stick or the D-pad moves the character around. The tabs are all hotkeys to controller buttons. It's all very intuitive and easy to understand and labeled. So tell me again why the mouse and keyboard controls are so awful? It seems that they actually made some kind of effort to set up the game for a controller, but basically didn't bother taking the same kind of effort for the PC controls. It's clear to me that whoever decided to set up this mouse and keyboard control scheme for this game is obviously not a PC user or has never used a mouse and a keyboard to play a game before. Another gripe I have is the fact that the camera auto-centers to the default location, no matter where you move it. At least on the controller, you can hold the right analog stick to move the camera into the position that you want and still move your character around on the map. It's not ideal, but it works. Good luck doing that with the mouse. Either you rotate the camera around or you move your character. You can't do both. And this is yet another feature that was obviously not considered very carefully when implementing mouse control for this game. You know, if you're going to bring a game to a specific platform, at least do the controls properly. For those of you planning to pick this up for PC, I hope you have a gamepad. The experience will be better for it. Okay, so now that that's out the way, how is the game itself? Well, it's a turn-based puzzle game. Even though the game doesn't explain things very well in the beginning, it's pretty quick to come to terms with how it works. Every time you move a character on the board, the other units on the board will perform an action. So that could be moving, that could be turning. It all depends on what kind of units they are. Some are just going to stand still and do nothing. Others are going to travel along the full durations of their lines and back. Others will patrol around in squares, and some will just turn around each turn as you move. And there are a variety of different units in the game. I haven't seen them all, since I'm only about halfway through the game at the moment. The puzzle is finding a route to the end of the map, or to find a route to your target and kill them, while negotiating around all these other units without dying. If an enemy unit is not facing you, you'll be able to kill them and remove them from the board. However, if you move onto a tile that is being watched by an enemy, you'll be killed. So as the game progresses, it slowly starts adding more complexity with the use of items that can be thrown to lure units to different locations. There are trapdoors that lead you to other parts of the level, and units that behave differently, disguises, and even weapons later on in the game. So what starts off as a relatively simple affair quickly turns into a more engaging puzzle game that's actually quite addictive. Each of the 7 stages that are included in the Definitive Edition is divided into sections, and each of these sections is a small puzzle in itself where you have to get to the end of the stage. And at certain points during the stage you'll have to kill a target. Now each of these sections has challenges, and these are different for each section. So for example, finishing a section is a default challenge for every single puzzle there is in the game. And then there are an additional 2. So it's either finishing it in a certain amount of turns, killing everyone on the map, or not killing anyone on the map, or picking up the briefcase and things like that. So these challenges offer some replayability for each of the puzzles. The moment you have to get the briefcase, or you have to do the map for some other achievement, you have to replan the route that you took before, and your solution may completely change to the one you had before that. Now I've spent about 3 to 4 hours with the game so far, and I've completed about half the game with almost all of the challenges complete, with the exception of a few, and I'm sure I'll be going back to those. So I think without a doubt it'll start taking longer and longer to get through each of the stages as you get further and further into the game. The puzzle mechanics themselves are engaging. I haven't found myself getting bored or losing interest, but I think once you've gotten the challenges for each map, there really isn't much incentive to go back and do it again. But for an $8 title, I think there's plenty of content here to keep you entertained, if only for a short while. Graphically, the game looks fine. Don't expect a AAA here. It's a bare bones port from the mobile with higher resolutions, as I said earlier. At close glance, the textures are pretty bad, some of them. At any rate, it gets the job done. The game looks fine, and I do like the overall art design and aesthetic that they've chosen to go with. The board game and miniatures thing I think works really very well. Audio, as I mentioned earlier, is very minimal. There are sound effects for the different things you do, like walking around, killing people, picking objects up, changing disguises, and that kind of thing. And there are some ambient sounds for each level and music as well, but the music doesn't play all the time. It plays now and again, and on the stages where you have to assassinate a target, then there's sort of a theme that plays through on those missions. I don't have any complaints about the sound or the music, but I don't feel that there's anything stand out about it. It does the job. So the question is this game worth buying? I think it's a great puzzle game. I think that it's something different, and I found it pretty engaging and addictive, as I mentioned earlier. But I do want to say this again. This is a puzzle game through and through. So even though it says Hitman, don't pick this up expecting to find anything more than a puzzle game. If this is your kind of game and you enjoy doing puzzles, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. I think that the price point is comparable to the mobile versions for what you're getting content-wise. So unlike many other mobile titles that come to Steam or come to PC, you're not getting charged 10 times the amount for exactly the same thing. So I'd have to say yes, I do recommend this if you like puzzle games. And for your own well-being, if you are going to play this, play it with a gamepad for the best experience. Now I know there's a Tomb Raider Go as well, and people on the forums I see are asking about it. I would assume that they'll release a definitive edition of that game at some point as well. Maybe it'll be based on how well this does, or maybe not, we don't know. If you do decide to bring Tomb Raider Go to PC, for the sake of all the PC users out there, add proper mouse and keyboard support. Have some hotkeys, make more intuitive mouse controls. But anyways, if you guys have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the section below. And that wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. I've been Xiaoling. Until next time. In today's video, I'll be talking a little bit about the PC Hitman beta and my impressions of it. If you're interested in seeing what options are available in the PC version of the game, along with how it performs, you can check out my other video here that covers that in more detail. Even though the game looks simple, it works. The atmosphere, I thought, was great. There was a good sense of exploring the unknown, always wondering what is going to happen next or what was around the next corner. It was pretty exciting at times. There are different biomes as well, so the scenery isn't always going to be the sort of